Kogarashi, a guy who's a spirit medium that deals with spirits. If you're wondering what a spirit medium is, basically it's someone whose body can be easily possessed by spirits. He goes to live at Inn for two reasons. The first one is he is in debt, and the second one is because they're cheap, because they're haunted by a spirit known as Yuuna. He eventually meets this spirit later on in the baths. Shortly after, he meets the residents of the inn. He figures out that he will have to share the room with Yuuna herself. Although she can't leave the room with her friend Will, every time she wishes to sleep, she has to go back to the room. As they were going to sleep, they have a discussion about Kogarashi's childhood, learning that since he was a medium spirit, spirits usually will take his body without consent. Because although he could see them at this point, he really couldn't do nothing about them because he couldn't touch them. Until he met his master, Milkin Olga, who trained him.
You may be wondering how she met him.
He met her under the false pretext that she was being attacked, which led to her helping him instead. And after this, she ended up training him, so much to the point where he could touch spirits itself, and where she forced him to enter tournaments that he won. And while we're on her, we might as well talk about how she's top strongest in the verse. Arguably top 10 at that point, given the fact that she's able to achieve feats that not many others in the series are able to achieve. Getting back to Kogarashi. Now when he fights, it's shown that he's among the strongest in the verse. Like when the monks came to try to exercise Yuuna and he one-shotted them. After this, we get to see that the residents are strong too, given the fact that one of them is a host of a cat god, another is a Oni, the other is a member of the ninja courts, and the owner of the residents manipulate Lux herself. Knowing this, all of them are still weaker than Kogarashi though, which results in them needing his help from time to time. Skipping ahead to later in the story, let's talk about a man named Ryuga Genshiro, a man who we see later walking with his attendant. His goal for being here is just to simply find a wife. He doesn't care about the species as long as she's pretty. After failing multiple attempts though, he happens to see Yuuna walking, and then proceeds to immediately kidnap her. After word get back to Kogarashi and Saguri begins to tell Kogarashi about Ryuga, which later we find out that he is a man born from a dragon. Because of this, she warns him about how powerful an opponent Ryuga is, but Kogarashi decides to go anyway, and Saguri decides to join him. While Saguri decides to sneak in, Kogarashi decides to take a bold approach, going straight to the front door and getting captured almost immediately. At the same time, Saguri decides to find Yuuna by sneaking in, being attacked by Oboro, and gets herself captured immediately too. Kogarashi is brought to Ryuga and is questioned where he is to Yuuna. Kogarashi starts to provoke Ryuga by telling him that they slept together. So Ryuga gets so mad to the point where he ends up attacking Kogarashi. The attack from Ryuga ends up sending Kogarashi into the air, making him hit the roof, but at the same time knocking off his handcuffs in the process. When Kogarashi comes back from the roof, it's a brief moment before Kogarashi ends up one-shotting Ryuga and knocking him out. Oboro tries to fight Kogarashi, but Kogarashi refuses to fight back. The reason behind it is because he simply doesn't like to hit women. Unable to beat him, Oboro decides to stay with Kogarashi so she can try to have his kid. After these events, as far as the anime goes, it really just shows the life of Kogarashi, like punking out spirits, being in high school, and eventually decides to help Yuuna move on. When it comes to the manga though, it goes even further, like how multiple people receive a power boost, including Yuuna herself, who became strong enough to find an even footing with Olga, or how Ryuga learned his secret family technique so he can get a rematch with Kogarashi, or the person who least expect at this point, Kogarashi receiving one, who knocked away the meteor said to destroy the planet. There are a whole bunch of other interesting things that happen in the manga, but I'll go over that another time. But that was a quick overview of Kogarashi.